This would be the refreshed 2026 Subaru Solterra, although it is heavily refreshed. Just about everything about this is different than before, including the battery pack that underpins it. It's now a 77 kilowatt hour unit instead of the, I don't know what it was before, 72.8 or something like that. More range, more power, significantly more, 338 horsepower compared to 215 before. Just think about that. Imagine a gas-powered vehicle being refreshed and getting over 100 more horsepower. We would all be absolutely blown away, but that is the beauty of electrification. Those changes, they aren't that difficult to make because the electric motors, they are new, although they are very similar. The packaging is very similar. They're just more efficient. They're still the brushless DC type motors that you would expect. They just operate better than the old ones. There's a new power control unit as well. This thing also has quite a bit more range. Before, you could get something like 359 kilometers on a full charge. Now 450, which I know is still short of some people's hopes and expectations of their EVs, but I say it's more than enough, especially for a vehicle designed for the city like this one. Now, yes, I know it's a Subaru. It is capable. We got to do a little bit of off-roading in it earlier, and it handled itself just fine, but this really is built for city streets and not country roads and off-road trails. Either way, I really do think the changes warrant a lot of appreciation for what Subaru has done. It's sort of admitted that it just wasn't good enough the first time around with the Solterra. It has put in much more effort and it has paid major dividends here. Some other changes we should talk about: charging. Before, capped out at 100 kilowatts at a DC fast charger, it can now hit speeds of as fast as 150 kilowatts. Now, of course, that is in ideal conditions, although Subaru says those conditions should be easier to hit, and a big reason why, it's got battery preconditioning now that's linked to the navigation, but you can also manually activate it, and that means that even in temperatures as cold as minus 10 degrees, you should still be able to do the 10 to 80% benchmark in about 30 minutes, which is about half the time it took when this thing first launched. It was also capped at 2 DC fast charging sessions a day in a bid to boost battery life, reduce that degradation, but Subaru has lifted that so you can hook up to a DC fast charger as many times as you want. Now, keep in mind, even with that 150 kilowatt speed, that's still relatively slow, and that alone is better for battery degradation because fast charging, well, that means the battery is going to break down quicker. So capping it at a reasonable speed like 150 kilowatts means you can still charge quickly, but it's not going to lead to long-term damage to the pack that underpins this thing. And of course, there is a NACS port, a North American charging system port, which is a Tesla style hookup. But keep in mind, only the newest chargers in the Tesla network are the ones that you can use with non-Tesla vehicles like this. The older ones use a different communication protocol, which means you cannot plug into the first and second gen stations. Now, we are seeing more fourth gen stations built across Canada, around the GTA. Regardless though, some of the ones at malls, some major locations that you might look at as very convenient, aren't going to work for something like this Solterra. So you should absolutely keep that in mind when you are shopping for an EV like this one. Now, there were changes made to the steering and suspension as well as the all-wheel drive system. The logic, it's quicker to send torque where it's best used, because don't forget, this is an all-wheel drive system, a dual motor setup. That is a Subaru staple. It's nice to see it here. It's also an important distinction next to the Toyota BZ that this thing is so closely related with, because there is a front-wheel drive version of the BZ, but not the Solterra. In Canada, we only get one version. It's got the same battery, the same dual motor setup, the same amount of power. This thing's also quicker than before by a couple seconds. I still say that's not what matters most in an EV like this, but it is nice to know that if you need to pass or merge on the highway, there is that sense of urgency that you expect with electric vehicles like this. There's also regenerative braking. It is adjustable with these paddles on the steering wheel. I do wish it was stronger. Still no proper one pedal driving, so you can't bring this thing to a full stop just by easing off the throttle. That is something I wish Subaru would have changed this time around, but it's something that could be changed with a software update. So I am going to let Subaru off the hook with that one. Some of the other changes that we should talk about, this big 14-inch touchscreen that, yes, is shared with Toyota and Lexus. If you look at the RZ as well as the RX, this is the exact same interface that you get in both of those things. There's wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's also dual wireless smartphone chargers down here on the console, and those are standard, which is pretty neat, although I prefer a hard connection, especially with those smartphone interfaces, because they tend to burn through the battery more quickly than wireless chargers can top them back up. But either way, it is nice to have those here. Something else that's nice, I do not have official pricing as of right now, but I can tell you that Subaru Canada has promised there will not be a pricing increase compared to the existing version. So how much did that one cost? Well, there were 3 trims in Canada before, and that carries on this time. So that would be $59,000 for the base version, and then there are a couple packages that you can get on top of that bring it to $63,000 or $66,000. That's still a lot of money, but don't forget, federal incentives are coming back. We don't know by how much, but that does mean it's going to soften the blow. We are probably going to see EV interest creep back up after it pretty much bottomed out late last year when the federal incentives completely went away. So it's nice to see Subaru back in the game with a much more competitive product. This thing drives well, it's smooth, it's sophisticated, it's quiet. Yeah, it's kind of capable if you want that, but really, it's got more range and faster charging speeds, and that's the stuff that matters most. And it is finally here after a few years on the market that were maybe a little underwhelming.